His plan is to kill you as fast as possible, which, okay.
But post-board, he gets a little bit of that kind of action. A couple negates.
Yeah, after sideboard, 2 negates, 2 Cinder Vines, 3 Disdainful Strokes, so some good interaction here against Dylan's deck. Now my question for you, because you have Dylan's deck list in front of you, what do you see there that he gets to interact with? Or does he have creatures? What's going on?
Yeah, he kind of converts into a little bit of a creature deck. You have Knight of Autumn, Hydrocrassus, Lyra Dawnbringer, Crushing Canopy, Negate, and Disdainful Stroke. Knight of Autumn is probably trying, not for this kind of matchup, I'm assuming it's a mixture of the mirror match as a way of blowing up Wilderness Reclamation that can't be hit by Negate or Disdainful Stroke, and then a card for the mono-red matchup. It's going to be excellent there. Probably not for this. And the other creatures, the Hydrocrassus and the Lyra Dawnbringers, may be good, but I would be a little apprehensive about bringing in expensive flyers against a deck with Vivian Reed. So it's possible hand here can't really go to the creatures. I don't know if they're necessarily appropriate for this matchup.
Well, Dylan's going to start things off with a Temple Guard, and Austin will kick it off for the Llanowar Elves. That'll be a Breeding Pool that enters the battlefield tap there for Dylan, so no Growth Spiral to be had. For Austin, it'll be a Merfolk Branchwalker revealing Cinder Vines. It's kind of hard to say no to that, I would think.
Well, unless you have some nerves here about hand not really being on that sort of thing anymore. But it looks like Collins is going to keep it.
And I guess the thing that I would say about that, which I agree with you, just how you want to look at that objectively, but I'd also just be thinking, well, what can Dylan's deck do that this would be bad against? Can they actually go to a creature plan like Todd's deck can?
Right. That's If he's on creatures, it's bad, and it's especially rough if Knight of Autumn is one of the creatures that are involved.
Very
but
true. Very true.
If he's on spells, then it's probably just too good not to play.
It'll be a Hydroid Crassus. The floor on that card, still a really good card.
Yeah.
4 mana, gain a life, draw a card, 2/2 flying trample.
In Eugene Harvey's basement drafts with all the commons laying around on the floor, Carrier Pigeon was a star, and that is quite a bit better than Carrier Pigeon.
I don't know what that is.
You don't know? Oh, wow.
It strikes me as either a white or a blue card.
Carrier Pigeon is an all-time great. Hopefully we can get up on the screen here in a moment.
I don't think we can. Yeah, we can't during time shifted.
White and 3 colorless, 1/1 flying, summon draw a card.
Okay, that's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah, and the
better.
garbage drafts?
Yeah, so much better than the average common.
Yeah.
1/1 flyer for 4 is already close to a card you can play.
Here it is. Here's Adonis Climb. Hydroid Crisis is going to get a little bit bigger, and now Adonis Climb is going to transform. Here come the beatdowns. And now, one thing to note about Adonis Climb when it transforms into that land is it does tap for any color of mana. Mm-hmm. I think that may have been missed by many, myself included initially. I was always thinking, oh, well, it's cool that it doubles up and lets you punch an opponent in the face, but it also provides mana fixing, which means that Austin can play this game with a Disdainful Stroke at the ready now.
Yeah, it's a little interesting, right? Because the artifacts tap for 5 colors. That makes a little bit of sense. The Bloodfast turns into taps for black, right? Mm-hmm. Surprised that it isn't a tropical island.
Search for Wisconsin taps for blue.
Right.
Legion's Landing, when it transforms, taps for white.
Yeah, I would expect that to tap for green or blue.
Yeah. I was surprised when I found out that tapped for all the colors of the rainbow, but very cool nonetheless as we head back over to Austin Collins. You saw Knight of Autumn there from Dylan Han. Creatures are on the battlefield, but again, Dylan's deck kind of showing maybe some of the problems with it, even though he's off to a great start here at 4-0 this weekend. Nothing real explosive going on this game, and you saw in the last game, he didn't have Wilderness Reclamation, he didn't have Teferi, so those Nexus of Fates that he was drawing, it's a big old meh.
Yeah, the ceiling is a lot higher, but the floor is a lot lower on this sort of build.
It'll be a Cinder Vines. And Crassus will come across for some damage in the air as we head back over to Dylan. I see a couple of lands in hand right now. There's the Arc. Another Reclamation. Now, they are good in tandem. Cinder Vines will deal a little bit of damage. But only if you have some way to abuse all of the mana that you're generating.
Right, and Collins here with a Disdainful Stroke, and I think he's thinking just whatever, you get it. You got the Disdainful Stroke to cover you against some play that's big. The other line here is that you can Disdainful Stroke one and use your Cinder Vines to blow up the other, and then hand has nothing.
Yeah, but I like Austin's play here. Okay, what's the worst thing you can do?
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Nexus of Fate, I can counter that. You're going to play Teferi, I can counter that.
Well, my concern here is Fogs plus Arc of Oraska to start pulling ahead.
Sure. Draw some cards once you get the city's
He's got a lot of mana now, and hand might be able to manage this game without playing into Disdainful Stroke.
Okay.
That would be my concern. If he didn't have that land, I would feel much more comfortable with Collins' line here. It still might be correct. It's just an argument for fighting over the Wilderness Reclamations. You keep him off the City's Blessing, and you pin his mana.
Well, that's permanent number 10. This is Hydroid Crassus number 1. This isn't bad.
Not an ideal thing to Disdainful Stroke.
We'll resolve the cash trigger. Gain 2, draw 2. And that looks like that might be in there. All right. Now what do we do? Crushing Canopy, kill 1. Cindervines kill the other. This is... He might be thinking Fight with Fire, but I'm pretty sure that's a sorcery.
It is.
Yeah.
This came up for me.
Yeah.
Can confirm.
It's like, I don't think it's time just yet for Fight with Fire, though it can straight up kill the Hydroid Crassus.
Bryce Jackson, could you come up to the stage, please?
3 mana here for Austin.
Open competitor.
That's dead.
That is time in the round. Please finish the current turn.
Now it looks like it's time to get some damage in here with the Branch Walker and the Land of War Elves.
That is time in the round.
Collins feeling comfortable enough. Looks like maybe leaving the Branch Walker back. Okay, well, he's a little unsure of himself. All right, well, there's your trade. Knight of Autumn will trade with the Land of War Elves. 3 damage will come across in the air. And again, Austin Collins sitting there with Disdainful Stroke in hand at the ready. Dylan will draw. So there's such a big difference between the games we're watching, right? The last match we watched with Todd, the match we're watching here with Dylan. Dylan's deck has so much difficulty operating without Wilderness Reclamation,
right,
where Todd's deck is built with the ability to operate without it, and the ability to maybe sideboard some copies out. Like Bant Nexus, it can't sideboard any out.
Right, and the fact that Anderson has the amulet means he's got a second build around to work with.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have Wilderness Reclamation, you can kind of leverage that card into a game-winning long-term advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Hand is no such analog here. He has Nexus of Fate, but that card kind of presupposes that other good stuff's already going on for you.
Of course, yeah. Jade Light Ranger. That'll resolve. And no attacks there from Austin because of the fog that was played on the upkeep. Got it. We go back over to Dylan. But, the question you have to ask yourself right now if you're Dylan is, how am I starting to generate an advantage? How am I seeing more than one card a turn? Because in order for me to be able to win this thing, I got to resolve multiple copies of Chemister's Insight. I got to be seeing multiple cards with Teferi and Nexus and all that stuff. Right now, I'm just playing a very fair game.
Right. Yeah, no way to pull ahead here. So every turn he's swimming upstream and only drawing one card a turn. It's a really hard way to do it.
Hinterland Harbor in hand there for Austin Collins. He'll reveal that once again from the Jade Light Ranger. Yeah, but I'm with you, partner. It is a very difficult way to try to get the job done here for Dylan. I'm not sure where he can go. He'll play a Hallowed Fountain untapped. Doesn't appear to have much of a choice. And I suppose 4 isn't all that different from 2.
Yeah. Collins is dealing, I think, all damage to the combat step, so it's kind of whatever.
Let's see what comes next here for Dylan, if anything. He's going to play another Fog on Austin's upkeep. That will resolve, and now he'll play a Nexus. All right. Will that get Disdainful Stroked? Again, this is an interesting spot because if I'm Austin, I'm not sure I care.
Yeah, is Nexus of Fate better than simply draw a card? It's basically the same thing here. So Dylan going to get 2 in a row here.
Yep.
2:30 modern challenge players go round 3 pairings and making
What can he do with 2 in a row is the question.
Well, he's got Chemist's Insight, so that's four cards right there.
making their way to the pairing boards.
Well, that's not a bad place to start then. All right, Chemist's Insight.
And this is, the rhythm you want to get into here is looking at some extra cards along with answering things.
Here's Teferi. Now that one's worth a stroke to me. It feels like this is good enough that I have to counter.
I think Collins disagrees. But I mean, this is I know Teferi looks like a lot. Is this anything other than another draw 2?
Okay. That's a good question.
Now, with that said, there's still an argument to fight over the draw 2s because you can't disable stroke any of the fogs, and all the fogs represent a lot of extra cards because hand can draw a lot of extra cards with all the mana that he has. But it still might, from Collins' perspective, just be like, okay, it's another draw 2. I can't fight over these. I got to keep the disable stroke back for something big I can't answer otherwise.
Well, Teferi's here. Dylan's at 2. Dylan will draw. Picked up a copy of Growth Spiral. So what is the card to counter then?
Creature he can't answer, an Expansion Expulsion, assuming that hand can come together with the red mana, which I don't think is really in the cards here. Something like Lyra Dawnbringer might be good enough.
Okay.
But even if you can't name the card, Austin Collins might just be saying, well, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it.
Sure.
Draw a card. Go ahead. Draw a card.
More cards.
Again, what concerns me about this path is anytime hand draws a fog, that fog represents 4, 6, 8 cards, something like that, because hand has all this leftover mana with which you can use to draw extra cards.
And that is the concern.
And then you can start chaining it all together.
Sure. Okay. Well, I think Dylan found one. I think. Growth Spiral. He'll draw. Play an island. Collins waiting very patiently as Dylan takes quite a while in his turns when things like this occur. Things can get a little bit complicated. He'll untap a couple of lands and pass the turn back. I think we're going to see that upkeep copy of Root Snare here in just a moment. It is worth noting that Austin does have Fight with Fire in hand if memory serves. Actually, no, he used it. Never mind. He'll draw. Interesting game.
Yeah.
Has he sat on the Disdainful Stroke too long?
Yeah, I understand not wanting to fight over the card drawing, but really the cards that are most concerning are the Root Snares. You can't disable stroke that, so maybe the next best thing you could do is fight over the card drawing.
Yep.
And hope to cut him off if looks at it. But it looks like Collins at this point is kind of he's cast his die, like he's taking the line he's taking here.
All right. Well, Nexus was just drawn.
Well, the disable stroke is live and available for that at least.
And I mentioned that being the draw step, obviously because it's important, but is this the card that he was waiting for the entire time? Is that Dylan gets himself into a situation like this, Nexus costs so much mana, he doesn't have Wilderness Reclamation on the battlefield, that I can just counter one of those, and then I'm clear for takeoff. Well, there's that.
Well, you can't fight over this. I mean, I think if you're in Collins' position, the things that matter are fogs or things that facilitate extra fogs. This is not it. It's not like hand's really bottlenecked on mana in any meaningful way right now. So I think you got to ride with this.
Four mana. All right, so Chemister's Insight. 1, 2. I think that was another copy of Wilderness Reclamation.
It still doesn't answer the question. Do you have anything to if you can't stop the Nexus of Fate, or sorry, you can't stop the Disdainful Stroke, and you can't stop the combat next turn, do you have any live cards?
Yeah. All right, triggers. He's got 3 of them. 1 from Teferi, untapping 2 lands, 2 from Wilderness Reclamations. Well, we're going to see it. We're going to see how Dylan does right now. He's climbed back into this thing in a big way. He's going to have some mana floating. All right, untap them all.
130 Legacy players, your round 4 pairings have been posted. 130 Legacy.
7 mana. There's Nexus. This is the one. Okay.
Speaking of pairings,
He's finally used it.
your pairings are online.
Keep in mind, there's still an untapped trigger coming from the other Wilderness Reclamation. There's an Arc of Oraska on the battlefield to be able to allow Dylan to maybe draw a card to get to another Time Walk-esque effect. It doesn't look like Dylan has one of them in hand right now.
But a Fog is still a great draw here.
A Fog is an incredible draw. Hollowed Fountain is not an incredible draw. Float a mana, maybe? Yep. Can Dylan keep this going?
I think he gets to look at 1 card here.
I think that you are right. Yep, activate. It needs to be a Fog or a Nexus. Draw. Hydroid Crassus.
It's a lot of stuff on his main phase.
It really is. It might have been all of that for nothing. Jumpstart Chemisters. He needs to find Fog now. 1, 2. That's the whiff. He didn't find it. He did not find it. And that is going to do it. Austin Collins is going to win this match here over Dylan Hand, 2-0. Teamer Climb, with some timely counterspells, not a ton of them, wins it over Bant Nexus. Collins going to move on to 5-0.
Yeah, very impressive win there. That Disdainful Stroke, really complicated. Bang.
Yeah. There's your carrier pigeon, bro.
They don't make them like they used to. I guess Hydroid Crassus is a gold card.
Yeah. Yeah, thank goodness they don't make them like they used to.
Did you see the little backpack it's got on?